Sarah Jessica Parker, welcome to Call Her Daddy.
Thank you, Alex.
You don't even know.
Thank you for having me.
No, thank you for being here. You don't even know. When I started Call Her Daddy, you were beyond, obviously, the inspiration. And then when I started interviewing people, you have been at the top of the list to sit down with. So thank you for being here.
Oh my gosh. Thank you. Thank you for having me. And especially in New York City, because I know it's not your home.
But it was at one point.
And is it true that you're maybe coming back, or is that just some wishful, hopeful rumor?
It's a rumor.
Okay.
No, you know what? Every time I get here, I feel like I'm alive again. Not that I'm like dead in LA.
No, but it has a certain kind of, it's a very dynamic city, and yes. it does that to people when they step off the plane, which is really curious because I think Los Angeles actually actively does the opposite. It's just a quieter, less intrusive city on a person.
Completely. You know? I feel like I'm like entering my spa era when I go to LA and then I come here and I'm like, where are we going to dinner? What's going on? The night starts at midnight. That's why you earlier were like, oh, did you have a late night?
Well, did your documentary? So how did it go, and what was the experience, and how was it I'm sure you've seen it already. But
yes, it was so nerve-wracking.
Was it really?
I'm sure you know, like even as you've been in media for so long, when you put out a piece of work that's just a little bit different than you're used to, or even coming back, right? Like you're like, it just feels, you're anxious because you want people to like it.
Yes.
But I feel really hopeful that people will perceive it in a positive way. And so it was great, but I'm going to be honest. I was like, okay, now I'm going to interview Sarah Jessica Parker. So everybody, I'm going to bed. I'm putting my face mask on.
Aww.
Don't talk to me. So I'm happy to be here with you.
Well, you're no worse for wear. You look great.
You look amazing too.
And I'm glad the night felt good and felt the way you hoped it would feel. Yeah, it's a big deal.
Us talking about LA versus New York, you obviously live here. You're a tried and true New Yorker. What is your favorite part of living here?
I really feel like when I walk out the door, anything can happen. And there are degrees of that being good and potentially
bad,
awful.
Yes.
You're bumping into neighbors and you're bumping into the familiar, but every single day I'm having an exchange with or physically touching somebody who might never be on that street again, you know? And I really, really love that. And I always have. There were these two young fellas. I came out of our house yesterday, and stoops are a thing in New York. And just because you own one doesn't mean it's yours. It's everybody's stoop. And I spent decades sitting on other people's stoops. And in my head, I dreamed one day, I hope I can have a stoop. And so every time we come home and there's people on our stoop, people always move their stuff really quickly because they realize they're in the path. And I'm always like, no, stay. But yesterday I came out and there were two boys standing at the foot of the stoop, and there was a penny heads up on the last step of the stoop. And I said, fellas, there's a penny heads up. Why are you not grabbing this penny? I guess my point of the story is I would have had no other reason to talk to these guys on the street smoking pot. You know what I mean? Like they were just there and having like they were in between something and chatting, and I like imposed myself on them, but it was definitely a friendly exchange, and they were sort of like, I think they felt like a friendly reprimand or something, but that would never happen if I got out of my house, I walked out of my house and I walked into a garage and I got into a car and I drove down the street. I just wouldn't have, I don't know if that's something that other people might like, but I do.
You're like, I love people just like loitering in front of my house. It's fabulous. Hold on. Did they know who you are?
Yes, they did. It was like a slow burn. But our initial exchange was just three people, two of whom were not strangers. I was the stranger to them. And I said to them, fellas, look down. Like, don't walk around just here or here. Look down for your penny.
They're like, Sarah Jessica, we're high. Like, babe, I'm too high. I'm not even looking at the goddamn penny. So did you pick it up?
You're probably right. I picked it up, and I felt like maybe if they saw my enthusiasm for it, they would they would pick up, and next time they'd be all the wiser for it.
I think they will. I think they will.
I don't know.
Call Her Daddy is brought to you by T-Mobile. Daddy Gang, it is time to start getting treated like the main character that you are with T-Mobile, okay? With T-Mobile, you can get exclusive experiences, perks, and benefits like free in-flight Wi-Fi, discounts on hotels and rental cars, and even special access and surprising perks at the hottest shows, concerts, festivals, and sporting events. I want that. You should want that too, okay? For me, let me just say, free in-flight Wi-Fi, it is the biggest game changer. I love being able to talk with you guys on Instagram. And when I have some flight time to kill, to get your input on what drinks I should be ordering or what you guys want to see on the show and who should I have on the show and if Matt's annoying me, whatever it be, I want to talk to you guys. I also love a good hotel deal, and T-Mobile makes discounts on hotels easy to secure. T-Mobile thanks their customers every Tuesday with perks that you can't pass up, giving you the VIP experience with Magenta status. Listen, I love perks. I love to get a little, oh, you want a discount here, here, here? Boom, sign me up. Switching to T-Mobile has been such an upgrade to my life. The service is reliable, and the perks are unmatched, and they truly care about the customer experience, aka the Daddy Gang. Plus, I'm super into attending sporting events right now because Matt, my husband, really loves them, and I'm a good wife whenever I get us tickets to anything. So I'm excited to use T-Mobile perks at all the games I'm looking to hit up this summer. With T-Mobile, you can be the main character you were always meant to be. Be the main character at T-Mobile.com/benefits. You and public transportation. Let's pause for 2 seconds, because you have quite literally been seen on subways, walking around the city. You're one with the people in New York City. I feel like everyone knows that. How? Like, how are you just like walking to your local deli and not getting attacked?
I mean, people always say hello and they talk or they nod. I have headphones. I'm not convinced that really does anything. I have sunglasses, but I always have worn sunglasses. It doesn't really. There's still activity on the subway. People chat and talk, but I will say people are so much more on their phones now
They're not looking at
you're
you.
not quite as on the subway. If I talk, people hear my voice.
That's similar to me, where my voice is more
Gives you
recognizable,
away.
that I am always like, I'll be in an elevator with my husband and he'll be like, what do you want to do? And I'm like, Matt?
Later,
Later, honey, later. Wait, when you have your headphones on, are you actually listening to something?
Yeah, always.
What are you listening to?
Oh my gosh.
Putting you on the spot.
Everything. Podcasts.
Okay.
Lots of music. Mostly podcasts. I don't listen to books on audio. It'd be podcasts or music.
Okay.
Yeah.
And are you faking phone calls?
I've almost never done that. I think I've done it more with my children. When I was outside recently and I knew that they wanted to talk to me and I needed to do something, but then I thought, oh, there's a right and wrong way to do this, because the phone, if you're actually on a call, the phone looks one way, the screen looks one way. And if you're not, I think it's all just visible.
Yes.
I do have a privacy screen on my phone.
Okay, that helps. And pro tip, you need to put it on Do Not Disturb, and you need to angle it towards your chin. I fake phone calls all the time. All the time. You just tilt it so no one can see that you're like fully on your photo album and there's no phone call happening.
Great.
Yeah, I got you.
So it's always on Do Not Disturb, and Do Not Disturb just doesn't allow for like a lighting situation.
Yes.
Got it. Okay.
Can we talk about fashion?
Sure.
Because
I talk about your shoes.
I was about to say, we need to talk about my shoes. I don't usually dress up for interviews.
You look so beautiful.
Thank you.
Really. And your hair is down, and your hair is not in a pony or a clip or I know, I'm so touched.
I love that you walked in and you're like, wait, I'm dressed down and you're dressed up.
I know.
And
I felt like I went through 3 outfits
you look
before I came here, trying to telepathically guess what would be appropriate. And then ultimately I realized, the more I'm trying to be something else, I'm I look like an
No.
idiot.
You dressed down as me dressed up.
No.
Like, unless you showed up in sweats, I'd be like, okay, you got it. So these shoes. I have never worn open-toed heels on Call Her Daddy ever. Ever in the history of ever. And I probably never will.
So lovely on you.
Well, thank you. But it's just an ode to Miss Carrie Bradshaw. They are the shoes that you wore in the show running to the ferry.
Yes.
This outfit was also loosely inspired by the green jersey.
I remember it.
With the cargo. I
Yes.
was like, I have to recreate it.
I knew the minute I saw it, and I don't actually remember a lot, but I remember outfits and cross streets.
Outfits and cross streets.
Yeah.
I didn't know if you would know the Jimmy Choos. And the minute, for everyone that didn't see this moment, she literally walks in the door. She goes, hi, I'm Sarah Jessica. Oh my gosh, I love the shoes. I can't believe you're wearing those shoes. Like, thank God she noticed.
And it was such a clever thing that Jimmy Choo just reissued.
Yes.
Was it 2007?
Yes.
2008? I can't remember the year of that line of,
I got you, girl.
Those are really pretty shoes. And my original pair, we had 2 pairs for that episode because I lost one. And I was running so much in them that they were getting trashed. So they had a backup pair. The pair that I wore has the glue under the feather has yellowed. We pull them out all the time to have them on the show now because they're always like in the closet moving around. And we have a new pair, but the new pair is of like we have the unused pair, but it's of little interest to me because it has like no sentimental value. But when I saw fresh pairs, I was like, wow.
They do look good.
That's what it's like with a fresh pair.
But I bet the yellow glue is even sexier.
It's pretty touching.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm going to add that to mine later.
Okay.
Pretend I was there. Feel something. The iconic looks that you've had, how involved were you in Carrie's style?
I think Pat and Molly would probably characterize this the same way. It was always a real conversation. And I'll try to paint a picture. I'd come to a fitting. It would be 11 o'clock at night at Wrap, or it could be 2 p.m. And the fittings could be anywhere from 2 to 5 hours. And that wouldn't always cover an episode. So I would walk in, there were racks of clothes, and the quantity of racks grew and grew over the years. Initially, nobody loaned us anything. We couldn't get our hands on anything. We had, I think, $10,000 originally per episode as a budget. So I'd walk in and there would be racks of clothing and there would be ideas set per scene, per episode. And we would talk about it. They'd show it to me. And I always tried everything on. I didn't care how ridiculous or whimsical or even hideous it was, that the joy it would bring the costume department to just see something on as, you know, it could be some crazy jumpsuit that they pulled out of someone's bin or a basement from 1971 and it was like ill-shaped and sort of unattractive, but there was something great about it. A lot of Polaroids. But then once we kind of figured out what we liked per scene and we knew that it fit with perhaps other people's fittings, if someone else had fit before me, we knew their colors, we would talk about it. And then we would show the pictures to Michael or Darren, the showrunner. Initially, it was Darren. And then they'd have feelings. They'd come back and we'd talk about it and we'd plead our case in some instances where they didn't want us to wear something. And we had to sort of, you know, our case before the court. But more and more so is the case that it's just big conversations. And it usually starts about 3 months before we're shooting, even 2 months prior to prep. Molly and I are already figuring out. So I started my fittings in February for this season and we started shooting in April.
And your whole life, were you a big fashion girl or did this happen because of the show?
I wasn't somebody that, my mother really loved beautiful clothing and we didn't have money to have beautiful clothing, but she was very industrious and we lived in a wealthy neighborhood. We were like the least wealthy people, the affordable house. And, you know, in those days, church tag sales. And she was really smart about getting her hands on beautiful things for little or no money. So in our home, she liked beauty and she made some of her clothes. She could sew. So I grew up understanding that things were worthy, things were beautiful, things were well made, things were good quality fabric, things were hard to find. That, that taffeta or that file would be very expensive by the yard. And so I understood it, but I didn't have my hands on a lot of it. And then when I started living on my own, I would still see things in New York City that I understood to be good, but I didn't, or even important, but I didn't necessarily have the financial opportunity to get my hands on them. And I was pretty strict about sort of what I thought would have a life.
I was thinking about it because I saw recently online, it was a part of an interview you did, and you talked about how you negotiated in your contract that you got to keep every single one of Carrie's outfits and you have it archived. I'm like, Sarah Jessica, how the hell did you pull that off? And it's from episode 1?
It's from episode 1, yeah. It's, none of the credit is mine because previous to Sex and the City, I started working with a new attorney before I even met my husband, so about 35 years ago. And one of the most important things he said to me, outside of the fact that I think he's a terrific businessman and a great and fair attorney, is that from the beginning of our relationship, he said, you should always keep your clothing, no matter what it is. And he said, some studios are going to be harder to negotiate with about that because they like to have their own archive, and that makes sense. And he was totally right. There are studios that really want to hang on to stuff. So it's a very complicated dance to get your pieces. But so by the time I was doing Sex and the City, it was just in my contract that I have everything. I mean, with the exception of something that a designer loaned us that needed to go back, or a consignment piece from a vintage shop. But often those same designers would end up saying, just keep it, have it be part of that archive. So yeah, it's a huge amount.
How often do your daughters ask to borrow clothes?
You know what? So many people rightfully ask that. They just don't.
They don't.
No, they're not.
Girls.
They like clothing, and I'll get a text couple times a month asking, can they purchase something? But they mostly buy their clothes used, almost entirely, which I think is pretty common now with girls, young women their age. They'll be 16 later this month. So they're pretty steady. They don't tend to be trend. They don't move toward that. They know they don't have a budget. They don't have money with the exception of what they've earned. And one of them is a little bit better at earning than another, she saves pretty well. They both had jobs last summer.
Okay. Do they ask for fashion advice?
They'll ask me, what do you think of that? Or what about this dress for this occasion? Maybe they'll ask about shoes. My shoes don't fit them. It's really a tragedy. I'm actually not kidding. I find it really tragic that
that's actually the worst.
They can't. One of them can sort of squeeze. But their taste is different than mine right now too. Like what I have is not necessarily of interest. They've never seen the show, so they haven't an idea about what is available to them yet. But I give them stuff of mine all the time.
I think that makes sense though, because I think back to my own mother, and well, also my mom is not you. So love you, Lori, if you're watching this. But my mom was like way more like polo and Bermuda shorts. And like, that's not going to cut it for me. I want something glamorous. But as I got a little older, I started to really appreciate like her vintage Levi's.
Yeah.
So maybe eventually, who knows, they will eventually like tap into the Carrie Bradshaw archive and be like, I needed not maybe a dress for prom, still not that age, but maybe in their 20s, they're going to hit it.
Yeah, and I would loan, I think I would be happy to loan them anything out of my closet right now. I don't really have as many clothes as people think.
What is a piece from Carrie's closet that you still wear today?
Nothing. I keep in my personal closet, which everything else is an archive. I keep this belt that I named Roger, and I don't know why. It's a belt from later years episodes. It's a studded leather belt that Carrie wore a lot. And it was, I think, in the movie, and it's reappeared. Carrie, you know what? I think Carrie first wore it when she was shopping in DVF store in the meatpacking, and she had on a pink linen shift, and around her waist was a hard leather belt, a vintage belt that's, about this wide, and it's studded, and it's really old and hardy. It's like a muscle, and for some reason I have that. I never sent that to archive. Yeah.
What, you don't know why you called it Roger?
I think we were reaching for it so much, which happens in fittings where something becomes like a favorite, and it just kept being right for everything. And so I don't know why I named it Roger. It just seemed easier and more efficient to everyone know, instead of saying the black leather with the studs, and just Roger.
Roger.
Yeah.
Grab Roger. How is your personal style different from Carrie's?
Very. Not nearly as brave. Not as kind of not as conscious about body and how clothes lay on a body, which I guess has to do more with, like I said, being brave and just access to way more. Like a much more, I always say it's like she has a much more fevered relationship to fashion than I have. So she just has so much more. It's so decadent, the amount of things,
yes,
pieces and layers and hats and belts, shoes, obviously, coats, gloves. And I just don't have that,
When you were referencing earlier that your kids don't really lean into trends, this is a very pressing question. Okay?
Oh my God, I hope I'm capable of answering
You've got this.
Okay.
You've got this. There is no right or wrong answer. Okay. Sarah Jessica Parker, would you put a Labubu on your designer bag?
What is that? Oh my God, you guys are laughing at me.
No.
Wait, hold on a second. What is it? Wait.
I just want you to know I don't own one of these, so don't judge me. Someone put this on my bag earlier.
Oh.
So this is...
Are these like dolls? They look like Cupid dolls.
So people are buying these things. Again, clarifying, I've never bought one.
Okay. Did someone send them to you?
Someone in this room owns them. We're not going to judge.
No. I'm not judging at all. It's a curiosity. It's like it's like an archaeology, like a dig.
So people are buying these for extremely high price. People are waiting in line for hours to get these things.
Do you feel comfortable telling me what you think one of them costs? Like, is that a Prada?
For now, it's going higher because there's so few that people are trying to get these.
Wow.
Would you ever put this on your bag? You can be honest, because I wouldn't.
I think I wouldn't, but not because I'm better than that.
Yeah.
And not because I'm above it.
It's not your style?
I don't think I ever hung a lot from a bag. Even when scarves started being tied around bags.
Oh, yes. People are adding things to bags and chains a lot, but you've never been a chain adding bag girl.
No.
Okay, so SJP's not putting a Labubu on her purse.
But once again, not because I don't care for it or think it's silly.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody do what you want.
Yes.
100%.
I like that clarification.
Do what you want. Yes. And now, how long has this been happening, this Labubu thing?
It's a new trend for sure. I would say this past month it's really popped off. But people have had it for a little bit, but it's really
you just said something. Did you say popped off?
Popped off. Yes.
So that means
like really
big.
Became big.
Like a thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Viral.
Yeah.
Did Labubu
Your
go
daughters
viral?
are like, yes, mom. Pop off queen.
Oh God.
Oh my God.
So
okay.
sad.
Let's go back for a second. You mentioned obviously your mom and where you guys lived. Everyone obviously knows you as a New York girl, but you're from Ohio.
Yes. I moved to New York when on January 1st of 1977. So I was 11 or 12. Yes.
What was your hometown like?
Cincinnati. Wonderful. Okay. We go back to Cincinnati all the time. It is a very impressive, exciting city.
Okay, I'm going to take your word for it.
It's beautiful.
Done.
Yeah.
7 siblings?
Yes, I'm one of 8.
What was the dynamic like in your house? Like, was it chaotic ever?
Yeah, it was chaos all the time. It was my mother amazingly survived. My mother it was a military operation without any of the infrastructure. So she was really strict and scary and had very high standards, and I'm gonna use the phrase that she yelled, but as a parent, I can now recognize that it wasn't yelling. It's the level you need to speak at when you're trying to organize packs of people and get people wrangled. But it was, a messy house, a loud house. It was really funny, and there was always a record on, or music, or the news, and like always
Something.
always noise, always.
Can you describe yourself as a kid?
Very curious. I would probably say that I was nosy as well. Like I wanted to hear and know everything. I stared a lot at people. Like I was always looking at everybody. I liked any new thing. I liked any chance to get out of the house. I loved going to the theater. Cincinnati has a really incredible theater called the Playhouse in the Park. And my father was a stage manager there. So we went to a lot of theater, and University of Cincinnati, their conservatory has an incredible theater department. We went to the ballet all the time. Like there was a lot of opportunities to be outside, like literally and psychically.
Eventually, you get to New York City. Can you tell me though, like once you really start working and acting in your early days, what was the hardest lesson you had to learn in those like kind of beginning big days of acting?
You just don't get the job. You don't get the job. You just audition and audition and audition and audition, and you don't get the job. And there's something about it that's very bleak, sincerely. But it's the very best thing that can happen to you. And I know people kind of frame all conversations about building a career that way, and it's probably true across industries. There's a lot of virtue that we put on failure, and I'm not quite talking about failure. I'm talking about getting better at trying, getting better at auditioning, plain and simple in my case, just being better at it, maybe being more prepared, maybe being more comfortable, better certainly at not getting the job and having it not like crater you. So the biggest lesson I got from those early days is, you pick yourself up and you move on. And in my case, I didn't have, like, I needed to support myself. By the time I was really on my own, which I moved out when I turned 18, I had a little money in the bank from Square Pegs, but not a big amount. I knew exactly how much money I had in the bank, and I took it out like very judiciously. I tried to get by on $40 like for 3 days, because I just didn't know for sure. I knew I would work, but the investment, the 10 auditions for the one job or the 20, but I just simply think it's really good for us. And I feel like you're so much more equipped even to have this conversation, because you're constantly talking to people your age and younger about how to pursue something and have it be meaningful, and the difference between that and pursuing success. And there's this big chasm that exists between creating a career and having that be your destination, and having your destination being success or fame or wealth. And I think they're at odds.
Yes, I agree. There's a lot of times where when you're talking about getting rejected essentially in these moments, which is so hard, when you love something and something is your true passion, yes, of course, everyone has an ego and it's going to sting, but a lot of times you can turn it around and self-motivate again to be like, I'm going to just keep going because this is the thing I want so badly, which I know in your case, like with Broadway and all of it, like this is who you are to the core. You've wanted this. You want to be performing, right? In some capacity.
Performing, but not famous.
Exactly.
Performing, but not rich. Performing, but not wealthy. Performing, but not powerful. Like none of that used to exist as something you work toward. Now, I'm not speaking for everybody, but I don't recall any conversation ever for the majority of my youthful career, when I was building one, that I heard anybody talk about fame or any of the collateral stuff that accompanies that. And I just feel like it was healthier for all of us, you know, and I'm not entirely sure I understand what all the other stuff really adds. I mean, there's security and financial gain. There is so much, and it's
Yes.
such a relief to be able to pay your bills. But I don't know.
No, I will add to that. I think a lot of people, one, there is more ability to get fame nowadays. It's almost like it's quite accessible, especially
Yes.
with the internet.
Yeah.
And I think, yes, it's almost like take finances out of it. Of course, money can help in so many ways. Like that isn't obvious. But fame as a concept, I actually think it's the rise and people getting to it that they think it's going to solve something within themselves. And if you probably ask anyone with fame, how do you feel about the fame? Everyone's gonna be like, well, I actually love my job, but I hate that part of it.
Yeah.
So it's almost like once you get to that top, if you're going for the fame, you're not going to actually feel fulfilled because there's actually nothing within fame.
Yeah. And it's too elusive. You can't, it's unreliable. It's fickle. But I feel like we both have to be so careful. Like there's nothing wrong with wanting to have people know who you are. And I think all the water is like very muddied.
Yes. You then eventually got fame. Let's talk about Sex in the City. Call Her Daddy is brought to you by White Claw. I don't know who needs to hear this, but you're way too hot to be spending the summer sitting inside scrolling on your phone. What are you doing? What are you doing? Stop letting plans die out in the group chat. Grab a White Claw and go make some memories, okay? Whether you're yapping poolside, hitting a barbecue, or just kicking back around a fire, a cold White Claw goes perfectly with your summer plans. That's right, Daddy Gang. It is White Claw summer. 100 calories in 12 glorious ounces, gluten-free, and the taste you know and love. I like to pick up a variety pack so that I can guarantee everyone can get their favorite flavors. I am personally through and through always a black cherry girl, but Matt loves the mango and Lauren's favorite is lime. So there's truly something for everyone. It's time to come out of hibernation and stop leaving everyone on red. We're finding a guy with a boat and we're having a damn drink. My friends and I strictly drank White Claw for an entire girls trip last year. And now I can't even smell sunscreen without being reminded of that trip. It was honestly the best time ever. There is nothing better than warm sun, a tiny bikini, tiny bikini, and an ice cold claw in your hand. That is peak life. Pick up a pack from your favorite local spa and grab life by the claw with your favorite flavor this summer. Please drink responsibly. Hard seltzer with flavors. White Claw Seltzer works. Chicago, Illinois. Let's talk about Sex in the City. What was your first impression of Carrie Bradshaw?
I really liked her. I mean, I would say more than even liking her, I just found it very compelling. All I had was the pilot script. I did know who Candace was because I was a New Yorker and I knew about her column in The Observer. We all knew that paper because it was pink, which was unusual for, that's a broadsheet, I think. And somebody had sent me the book and I don't know why. So I was familiar with her work. The script was pretty slight, like it wasn't a long pilot. But first of all, the way she was speaking, like her choice of language, I'd never seen or heard a woman talk like that. And there was a kind of darkness to the pilot script that I thought was very exciting to imagine. And there's the last moment as described almost entirely in stage direction is she meets this fellow big. He gives her a ride. He says, hey, can I give you a ride? They have a sort of flirty, slightly withholding conversation in the back of a town car. I miss a town car. And do you know what a town car is?
Yes, I do. I do.
You guys don't know what a town car is, do you? If you saw it, you too would be a town car.
Cute.
And he asks Carrie, you know, have you ever been in love? And she says something flippant to him about, I don't remember what she says. And he drops her off at her apartment, and she gets out, and the camera's, as described, I think in the pilot script, the camera stays on Carrie, and she walks toward her apartment door, and she quickly turns around, and she goes up to the window, and she knocks on the window like with her knuckles, and he rolls it down, and she says, "Have you ever been in love?" And he says, "Can I curse?" Okay.
Please.
He says, "Abso-fucking-lutely." But he doesn't say it like that. He says it beautifully. He says, "Abso-fucking-lutely." And she turns around and walks back to her door, and his car, I think, pulls away in the background, and the camera just freezes on her. And I was like, well, now we got a story. And I just was like, well, where could it possibly end? You can just, whether these two together or separately, there's so much. It felt to me that there was a huge amount there.
I have chills. You just describing that, I'm like, okay, like it was perfect. What did you admire the most about her?
Her kind of candor, her curiosity about sex and sexual politics, which is not like me. I don't talk about that at all, even with friends. I'll talk about it globally, but I don't sit and share intimate details of my life that way. I liked that she was sort of circumspect about when she wrote, that she had a kind of thing about this was what happened and how does it relate to the world? How does it relate to other women? And I admired that she was scrappy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she was like a little survivor. She had like instincts to like keep her head, not always making smart choices and falling short of being the best friend or the best girlfriend or her best self. But I also was very happy that they were writing her that way.
Was there anything that frustrated you about Carrie?
So, no. And yeah. And I say that like slightly chagrined because I know, as much as I don't read anything, you can glean that people, there's a sentiment sometimes that she's frustrating or she's selfish or she makes poor decisions or she doesn't manage her money well. Yeah, all of that has been true over the course of the last 25 years. But she's also been like hugely loyal, decent, reliable, a really good friend, generous, available, present, comforting. Given of herself in, in big and small ways that are private and public to her and among her friends. And she loves, like, so frustrated. If I were watching her and if I were her friend and I would see a misstep or see her keep repeating something, however she was choosing to deal with Big, I'm sure I would feel frustration or I would feel like, but as an actor playing it, I want all of it. I want all of it. And also I think we forgive our male characters, our male leads. We have no problem if they're, murderers,
Right.
like we have, honestly, like,
So true.
my favorite show in that period is Sopranos. Like and I love Tony Soprano. Like, I don't know if you guys watch Sopranos, but it's one of the great television shows in the history of American television. But Tony Soprano was a deeply flawed man. But we didn't talk as much about that as we did Carrie having an affair with a married man. It was just very curious to me. Or they'd say she's selfish. And I was like, I can give you 10 reasons and ways in which she wasn't. And you're like hyper fixated on this.
Yeah.
So frustrated, no, but I can absolutely understand if you're along for the ride, you can be like, lady, girl.
It's such a good point. I think it's so fair. And I think that's also a lot of even criticism also comes from women. And I think it's just because we criticize ourselves so much.
Yeah, we're very good at that.
We're beyond
Yeah.
A+ in that category.
Yeah.
But I think when people are watching, a lot of times I even felt like you really become so obsessed with these women that maybe a lot of the critique is because we actually as viewers are like, no, you're my best friend, Carrie. Like, I'm with you, but like, we got to get it together.
Yeah, got to get it together.
So that's fair to hear you as an actress being like, oh, I loved her. But I so get where you're coming from, but like, doesn't bother me.
And I think that the way you characterize that kind of voiced frustration is so wonderful. Even if they're mad, even I feel like, gosh, to be part of something that is that people have such strong feelings for and against, and those feelings can change, and they think they've made decisions about people, and then the people surprise them. And Carrie matures too. But there wouldn't really be a show if she had been a more stellar, consistently stellar human being. That's it. The end.
Done.
Yeah.
Done at the pilot.
Yeah.
See you all. Bye.
Yeah.
The show really celebrated female confidence. Behind the scenes at that time in your life, how did you feel about yourself?
Probably the same level of confidence one feels on their best day, and the lack of it that one feels on a middling or your worst day. And I do think that being on a television show in particular that grabs people's attention was probably a real test of my coping mechanisms, because I wasn't prepared, and this was before social media, so I really wasn't prepared for public commentary. And I think that was really unpleasant at times, where people would have opinions not about the work. Everyone's a critic, but at the time there were fewer of them, and they had their feelings about the show. And sometimes we all felt like, well, you're misunderstanding, but that's a separate thing. That's like an academic conversation. It was the personal stuff that I was really not prepared for. So at that time, I thought I was a fairly confident person, not boastful, it wouldn't be a confidence you could detect. It was just the way you get up every day and try to get on with your life and take care of yourself and the people you care about and love. But I think it really comes into question and is tested when you're kind of filleted in a way, when you're opened up. And I know you know this, we're better for those kinds of experiences, but not all of us are good at it right away.
And it doesn't mean it doesn't hurt.
Yes. And I think that was the thing, is that up to that point, I just never had people and there was no chatter about me. There was just my work.
What were some of the comments that would be the hardest that got you?
I think just discussions of my physical person, like stuff that I couldn't change and wouldn't change and had never considered changing, or even still after hearing something that was like, what? Somebody would say that, even still no interest in changing it. And also, and I think once again, you can appreciate this, and I feel like you found a better way. I didn't feel like it was actually a conversation. I didn't feel like I could sit in a room and someone would say to me, you're really unattractive. And then I could say, wow, well, first of all, that's like hard to hear. But second of all, why do you seem angry about it? Or why do you feel it's necessary to say it, to comment? And I think it was really only one time, and I don't really remember specifically the occasion, except it was brought to my attention that a magazine said something really, really mean about, who I am, how I look. And I was like, I was like, it was like a kick in the rubber parts. I was just like, why is this a problem? Why is this deserving of your time? And why do you seem to delight in saying it? And I called my friends, two of my friends who happened to be male, because I knew that they might know about it. And I was just like, I was sobbing because it felt so purposeful. And I think that's the only time I really cried about it. And I think it was just like an accumulation of like maybe a season of that kind of commentary, which nobody was trying to make me aware of it, but it
gets back to you.
It gets in.
It's interesting though, because like you said, how maybe it is a little different now. Like in my position, yes, I can like come on and speak like this, but like back then the analogy you used was so interesting where you're like, I feel like I'm like being put out basically like a fillet almost.
Yeah.
And it's just like I'm getting seared and you're an actress. So you're playing this character. People are commenting on you. You're going to the grocery store. You're seeing your face on magazines. They're giving commentary on your looks.
This was in the day of magazines.
Oh my God. And then you just have to go back to work. Whereas now, yes, we can go online and I can make a whole episode about it of why do we feel so comfortable commenting on women's bodies? Why do we feel like women have to actually look like a statue where we celebrate men and a beer belly and it's like everyone's like he's hot and it's like it's just the double standards are insane. And talking more about it, I appreciate you sharing that, because I think so many women watching this would be like, wait, what? You're literally one of the most beautiful women in the world. Like, what does that? And yet here we are. We can never be good enough for the standards. So at what point do we actually just be like, you have to just let it go? But it's so fucking hard.
I think maybe there's like a threshold where maybe, crying about it because it just seemed so cruel, was like done. I do wonder, like, and I'm sure you've said this, and anyone who's been criticized, you can't help but wonder. I couldn't help but wonder. I'm sorry. Would you say it to my face? Would you?
They will never.
I don't know. Anyway.
Mic drop. You were already married by the time you started filming Sex and the City.
I just got married the night before. We were married. I told Darren we were supposed to start sooner, and I said, I'm going to tell you a secret, Darren, but I'm getting married on May 19th, but we don't really want to share that publicly. So can we start shooting? And I was doing a musical on Broadway at the time also. So the show closed, and the next day I started shooting. So the show closed, I think June 1st, and the next morning, Monday morning, I started shooting the show. So I was 10 days married.
Before that period of your life, how did your dating life compare to Miss Carrie Bradshaw?
It didn't compare. It doesn't compare at all. It was much less colorful, less busy. I dated, but I would meet someone and date, and then that would be a relationship. It lasted 7 years, You
were a relationship girl.
Yes.
Did you have a type?
No.
You were just out there.
I don't really think I have had it. I don't think I have a type.
Do you think you and Carrie would have ever dated the same man?
Yes, I do.
Big was always sending Carrie mixed messages, obviously. I roll. But I feel like we all have that one guy that we gave too many chances to. What was a moment in your dating life where you realized, like, okay, I actually like have to cut this off. Like, I've given this person too many chances.
The first person that I had a really lovely boyfriend at the end of high school, like really spectacular human being. And then I met somebody else who was also really interesting and exciting and a dazzler, and had no interest in being in a relationship. And I was really, really, really young. And so that like, I was like, what do you mean? Look how, I was so, I just couldn't believe it. So that was an appropriate heartbreak. Like that was a good old fashioned sitting by the phone. Today's going to be different. This is today's day. And But after that, I met a fella and, you know, he was handsome, but he was not the best choice for me. And I think it was too many conversations that were not fruitful. Like they were a waste of time. And I actually I appreciated that he was a beautiful, handsome man that people said, "My God, he's handsome." But I discovered I didn't care. I don't care if we cannot speak. If we can't.
Right. You're like, what are we doing?
What are we doing?
You're hot. Now you're beautiful, but like, at what point am I now going to bed being I'm lonely?
Yeah.
We haven't spoken.
When there was nothing. Yeah.
There's just nothing there.
Yeah.
I know, ladies, like, looks only go so far. You need the depth. You need the connection. I think that's so relatable.
Humor and intelligence and complexity and surprise.
Him being interested in you.
Yes.
And asking follow-up questions.
Yes, a follow-up question.
The simple things.
There were just, anyway, not a bad person. Just.
No, not right for you.
Yeah.
If you needed relationship advice, who from the core four would you want to call in the show?
I suppose if you just want someone to comfort you, you'd call Charlotte.
Yes.
You know, because she's so naturally I'm going to say she's maternal because she is actually maternal.
Yes.
The character is, and it's like a source of pride that she can soothe. Mm-hmm. I think if you want like sound firm Miranda. And then if you want some nuance and like you want to open it up to a larger conversation, Carrie.
Call Her Daddy is brought to you by Tinder. Have you ever seen someone on Tinder that really stands out to you? Like, oh my gosh, this person is such a catch. Now with Tinder's first impressions, you can send a message to help stand out before you match. Try debating their hottest take, bonding over their weirdly specific obsessions, or hit them with a joke that they absolutely have to respond to. Try Tinder's first impressions feature and explore all of the possibilities for yourself. Tinder, it starts with a swipe. Download Tinder today. Sex in the City was essentially, I feel like, the first time on television that women talked about sex and pleasure in a really open way. How do you think the conversations on the show actually allowed women to have more sexual agency in real life?
I mean, I guess what I could tell you is that probably about a year into the show airing, I could see evidence of the way it was impacting New York City, say. You'd see groups of women all of a sudden in tables leaning into each other, not leaning in, which I can't stand the phrase. But I mean physically, yes. Like clustered and you'd see them in fours walking down a sidewalk, like lined up, like almost like a piece of equipment, which I'd never really, now maybe I was like hyper vigilant because of what we were doing all day long. So, and then just the anecdotal stuff of all the women that just came up to me and said all these years, you know, I was allowed to be me. I have different relationships because what I saw, I wanted to talk, or perhaps more so importantly, the multiples, the thousands who have said to me over the years, that's me. That was me. I never heard somebody say on television or in cinema, talking with my friends, like the way we talk, the truth of the way we conduct our relationships, which is all intimacy. It's all sharing. It's all needing. It's all helping. It's all truths. It's all hurting each other. So I think like that combination I'm aware of, but I think the larger, like, where does it sit? How has it? I think I'm just like, I'm not able to see it.
And I think that's so fair. I also think like it's probably also easy to digest in those moments when you meet a woman on the street and she shares that with you. You're like, that's amazing. That's beautiful. I'm so happy a piece of work and art that I've put together with a group of people has impacted you that way. Like, I think for me, I remember the way that comedy was used to lighten the conversation for women around something that historically has been so taboo.
Yeah.
It almost makes you think when you're in your room at night watching it, if you're alone or with your friends, you're like, why do I feel so awkward to talk about something that should be liberating if I want it to be, right? Like if you want to engage in that capacity.
Yeah.
And I felt like for me, even at the genesis of starting Call Her Daddy, like I remember that in the back of my head, even of like feeling empowered to just go for it, because I knew that had impacted the way that I felt comfortable. So if I now do a new iteration on my show, other women hopefully will continue to feel more liberated. And so I also think the lack of shame, I think the debriefs with women was such a beautiful element of freedom it gave to women to be like, why can men just so casually talk about sex? Like for women, if you want, you can also be celebrated and enjoy it.
Yes.
So there was so many nuances to it, which I completely understand. It's like, where do we begin? You could do a 1,000,000-part series on it, but I just wanted to tell you, like, it changed my life. So thank you.
Well, it's good writing, and it's great that they not stuck with it, but it's great that they, the writers, like, felt convinced of the idea.
Mm-hmm.
And then you do with it what you want.
Yes. Obviously, the show is really based in these beautiful friendships. And I have to bring up, because I've obviously hung out with him, he came on my tour, Mr. Andy Cohen. You guys are close friends. And I feel like people are obsessed with your guys' friendship. It's quite
It's
cute.
so funny.
What is his best quality as a friend?
There's multiple. And Andy has talked about this both in his books and on the air. Andy has said yes to everything. He has like gobbled up life. He's tireless. He wants to taste it, experience it, see it, hear it, know it, travel to it. He has a very attractive joie de vivre, and he is very proud of his friends. He's very always noting people's accomplishments. Always. We had a club years and years ago of everybody downtown. It sort of fell apart because people moved and stuff, but it was called the Nitwits. And we would meet, and there was the deputy, there was the vice president, there was a president, there was a secretary, there was a treasurer. And then Andy would write the letter to the group, like once a month. It was the Nitwits newsletter. And the entire beginning, or the majority of the text of the body of the work, was everybody's accomplishment over the last month. Everybody's success story. Didn't have to be a big deal, to the wider world. So that's just his nature. And I think that's why he loves parenting so much, and why it felt so necessary for him to be a parent, was to be involved in somebody else's life. Because he, as much as his reputation and his public profile is wrapped around, women that sometimes, fight or behave poorly or whatever. And he's a good shit stirrer, and he knows how to do it on the show. His nature is to be, up here and
uplifting.
Yeah.
Okay, this is a little bit of a pivot, but I do want to just quickly ask you, because I know a lot of women are listening. Do you have any advice for women who want kids but are also afraid that they may fall behind in their career?
Wow. What do you say to them?
I mean, I just recently talked about this. I think it's like being really in tune with yourself, because I think the reality is, as a woman, it is going to be different, but hopefully in a beautiful way different, right? And I had spoken about with my husband that we thought we wanted to try this past year, and now I realize I'm not ready.
Yeah.
And that's okay. And I felt shame and weird about it, and I was upset with myself just because I was like, how was I so sure about something? But really, I have so much more I want to be selfish with. And I think as women, it's hard to be selfish.
Yeah.
And it goes against our being.
Yeah.
So I want to be selfish a little bit longer. And I think that's okay. So my advice is take your time. I don't think there's ever a perfect time, but listen to yourself and don't allow exterior factors to impact you.
Just in general, that's just
right? Oh, that's
outside of fertility issues or thinking about planning a family. That's really good advice. In my opinion, it's really good advice. I couldn't agree more. And I think the most important thing that I think you said, well, no, it's equally important to other things, is there's no right time, because that's what makes it so confusing for yourself and for so many women. You think, okay, I'll just accomplish this and then it'll be a better time. And then maybe you do it, you accomplish that, and you think, but wait a second, but because of those accomplishments, now this opportunity exists and I'm not quite ready because I know I won't be able to be the same professional person.
Yeah.
So I would say, first of all, there's not a right time. So you have to kind of keep looking at your life with honesty. And also, it's really nice to have somebody to talk about it to, with whom you can speak about it. It doesn't have to be a partner, because a lot of people are choosing to have families without. Having somebody to talk to, I think that, because I think we spend a lot of time with fear and anything that's complicated in our heads. And the minute we can talk about it, oh my gosh, it feels so much better.
Such a release.
So I think finding somebody to talk to who you trust. And, like you said, just beating yourself up it really isn't in like you're spending so much time trying to make good decisions and right decisions for you and for potentially have a baby, so be decent to yourself about it.
Be decent. Let's talk about, and just like that, we're back. We're back. What was it like returning and playing Carrie? Because I was thinking about it. You were gone obviously for a while on the show, and now you guys have been back. But is it weird? Does it feel the same? How do you feel?
Well, when I first started talking to Michael Patrick about it, it was March of 2020 or April of 2020. And I started talking to him about potentially doing a podcast, because he and I had never talked about what it took to make the show. And I thought it was a nice idea to kind of do or could be potentially interesting to do an all access backstage pass to really how do you produce this show? And in the course of those conversations, he said, why aren't we just doing the show again? And I said, wow, I can't believe you said that, because every time it had come up prior to that, it just never felt like the right time. But when we were all at home, I felt like everybody was looking for home in a way that they weren't experiencing in their home. And that meant their friends, what people really missed outside of being with family, which for some people was a really great experience, but they missed their friendships outside of their family. And we thought, well, that's why it's right now, because everybody's looking for home. And Carrie's always been looking for home. And the way she tries to find that is with her friends. How do they guide you home? And so in theory, it felt really good. It was terrifying. I mean, the table read was so happy. We were all so happy to be together again. It was a perfect day. But I was really nervous for the first 2 weeks, 3 weeks of our first season. And I am typically anyway at the top of every project. Doesn't matter how many times I've played a part. You just are constantly is this how I walk? Is this how I talk? Is this, no, is this how she walks? Is this how she talks? Does she run this way? What's what feels right and correct now. So that's just the way I examine everything anyway. But
Did you watch any of the old Sex in the City to remember anything? No.
I've never seen most of it. I've never watched the show. I watched it in the beginning, and there was a period in which I was getting dailies and rough cuts from the studio, but I finally begged off because I wasn't keeping up. Michael Patrick he's like, you've got to watch, you've got to give me notes, you've got to watch it. And then I realized that I wasn't being helpful because it was so unpleasant for me to watch myself that I couldn't see the work.
Completely.
And that's not a good producing partner. I was able to be a partner in lots of other ways. So I would say easily by second season, I wasn't watching at all. And I've never seen almost anything. I saw the final episode ever because Michael had a screening of it live as it was happening live, which was pretty incredible. But that just was an opportunity for all of us to be together. And I think the only time I understood that the show was in the world in the way it was, because we had been so kind of purposefully cloistered from too much chatter, peripheral, blah, blah, blah. So I came home from seeing that episode, and that was season 6. So I hadn't seen almost anything up to that point after season 1. And we turned on the news was on, and under what do they call that?
Like the banner.
Yes.
News banner.
It said, Carrie ends up with Big on CNN. And I was like, do they know who Carrie is? And they know if they say Big, what that means. And John, maybe they said John. And I only then thought, wow, that's making a big assumption that there's going to be people in the broader world that know who Carrie is.
They do, honey. Oh, they do. Did you, of all the years that you were away from her, did you miss her? Or were you for a while at ease with
yeah,
it's okay?
I always feel good when we stop because I feel as if Michael's been so clever about, if somebody said to me, do you miss her? I'd say no, I think she's well. We'd leave a season.
I'm going to cry.
Or a movie, and I would think, but she seemed really well last time I saw her. So I always felt like he left her in not in good hands because she's in her own hands, but having sorted things out and finding a kind of contentment that sustains a person. And those friendships I trusted would remain, even if they change, and they do. So I didn't miss her. I always felt that that we, did right by her.
In this moment, because I feel like it changes, right? What do you hope your legacy will be within the Sex and the City franchise era?
Gosh, I never thought about me. Suppose I hope the work is good. I really do care about the work. And I think I care because of the audience. I feel such a debt of gratitude that will never be able to be paid back properly. So the work matters because for all these years, people have paid to have us in their home. They've actually paid to have us in their home. And they were the gang of 10 million from the beginning. It was slow, but they were as much a part of the show as we were. And so I feel for me, the work that has been so important to me is in large part about the audience's work and time spent with us, which is equally as important. And the two we can't exist without them and the commitment they've made. And so therefore, I made a commitment that I would care about every little detail. And some people make fun of me on the set for the kind of vigilance around detail, but I think it all adds up, and the audience sees and knows it all better than I do. So
it's beautiful. Last question.
Okay, really? Oh, that's so sad.
I know. I could stay here all day with you.
No, you gotta go home.
In what ways has playing Carrie Bradshaw shaped you as Sarah Jessica Parker?
Well, I suppose in ways that don't really matter, in ways that matter. So sometimes on a seemingly surfacey level, and then more so in ways that matter, the idea of breaking rules. I think I learned very early that Carrie is a rule breaker, and when she's doing it sartorially with clothing, people love it. And then sometimes when she does it in her interpersonal relationships, it's been not as successful, or it has been, because she was willing to risk convention and be herself. So I would say I came to look at rules different, because I was somebody that always followed rules. Like, I really did believe in them, because I felt that they were like a kind of constant that was good for us. And Carrie didn't always, and there was a lot that made her life better by being completely herself. But I'm wary, I wasn't unaware of the ways in which it was harmful, even if briefly. So that, and I would say that though none of us have the time that she has had to devote to friendship, I so admire the way that friendships are, like, foundationally the most important thing. And a lot of us have spent a lot of time working, and I always have had friends that were important to me, but I was envious of the time and the way she took care of those friendships. And it made me want to be a better friend. It taught me, even if I wasn't able to mimic it, because life doesn't give us time to have lunch all the time with our friends.
No.
But even if you put aside that kind of luxury of time and leisure, it's still something to aim for.
I agree. I cannot thank you enough for sitting down with me. I feel like I'm in a dream right now, and I don't know when I'm going to wake up, but like, this has truly been such an honor. Like, again, I just have to reiterate it, like, from me starting Call Her Daddy to now actually getting to sit down with you, I have chills. I've had so many chills throughout this interview. Thank you so much for giving me the time and sitting down with me.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Guest.
And I'm really, really proud of you.
Thank you.
And it sounds like you're so healthy about the way that you're looking at your life.
Thank
and I'm sure it's a huge source of comfort to a lot of women that listen to you, who are also contemplating in their lives some similar things, but also, even if they're not, it's like guideposts. So thank you for the way that you've connected with millions and millions of women and men.
Yes, men. We didn't forget about you.
And thank you for having me and being so hospitable and lovely. It was a real treat.
We did it.
And safe travels home.
Woo, thank you.
We did it.
It's a bop.
Thanks.
Like, it's giving me old Demi vibes. Like,
yes. I love that you know old Demi vibes.
Oh my God. Are you kidding me? Did you forget? Do you know how many times I've cried over that in my bedroom? Like,
I would, but
like in a good way, like therapeutic. And I'd be like, Demi's with me. Are you kidding?
If we repeat some of this, just pretend like it didn't happen before, because this is all great.
Yeah, we need to stop. Are we ready, guys?
Let's get started.
What is up, Daddy Gang? It is your founding father, Alex Cooper, with Call Her Daddy.
Demi Lovato, welcome to Call Her Daddy.
Thank you.
It is such an honor to have you here, and I want to say it's a big deal you're here for many reasons.
Oh my God, thank you.
Of course, but I've had sometimes people like come on if they're like a fan of the show, but you are the first person I have ever had on Call Her Daddy whose mom is a fan of Call Her Daddy. Shout out Demi's mom.
Yes. My mom loves this podcast. And she was like, you have to say hi. I was like, of course.
We are recording this just before your 30th birthday.
Yes.
Leo season. What does turning 30 mean to you?
Turning 30, what it means to me is like, to be honest, I've had a little anxiety. My 20s were like such a mess. Like I was trying to figure myself out. I didn't know who I was. A lot of shit happened. And then I kind of like over the past couple years have eased into who I am. And then this year I'm like, oh, I know who I am. So turning 30 to me has been like, I'm excited for my 30s and what that holds.
I love that. And I really want to normalize that because I feel like there's such pressure in society of like, when you hit 30, like figure it out. And it's like, what the fuck? No, 20s are meant to do all the fuck ups. And then 30s is when it's like, let me come into my own and really figure myself out.
Yes,
So
exactly.
I love that.
Thank you.
In our hectic, fast-paced lives, we could use some slowing down. Haagen-Dazs is made to be savored and enjoyed slowly. Introducing new Haagen-Dazs Belgian waffle cones, a completely new experience that's worth slowing down for. Daddy Gang, you've never had cones like this before, okay? They'll take crunch to a whole new level. Each crispy waffle cone is filled with the velvety smooth ice cream that Haagen-Dazs is known and loved for. Then it's finished with delicious toppings and a decadent bite of sauce waiting for you at the bottom of the cone, okay? Haagen-Dazs Belgian waffle cones come in 4 delicious flavors: vanilla salted caramel, summer berry, triple chocolate fudge, and toasted almond fudge. Boom. Sign me up. You guys know that I have the most hectic days at the office. So when I get home, I love to grab a little treat, toss my phone away, and take a minute to myself. These cones are a must-have in my freezer. I'm obsessed with the summer berry flavor. It's fruity and it's sweet. And seriously, it always hits the spot. It's the perfect way to end a long, stressful day. Ice cream just always hits the spot for me, and these Haagen-Dazs cones are truly the perfect treat. Savor your moment of slow with new Haagen-Dazs Belgian waffle cones available at retailers nationwide. You were one of the voices of our generation. I started listening to your music in middle school, crying up against the window. Did you forget?
Yes!
Like fully singing all my heartbreaks. I'm like curled up with Demi. I feel like I already know you. Like truly, it's been a roller coaster. I feel like I've literally known you for so long, and I still love your fucking music.
Oh, thank you.
Were you always a natural performer?
I think that performer, no, I wasn't always a natural performer. I had some like adjusting that I had to do over time. I started performing on tour with the Jonas Brothers when I was 15. And I went from my first show in June of like 2008. It had like 100 people, to July, my first show with the Jonas Brothers was 18,000 people. So I had to like learn how to perform on these massive stages. And it was super intimidating. I was so nervous, but like I figured it out and I found my groove. But I have always been a vocalist. Like, you know, singing has always come natural to me. My first time singing on stage was when I was like 5 and at my talent show in kindergarten.
What did you sing?
Celine Dion's My Heart Will Go On. Which is like one of the hardest songs to sing, but I was like, yeah, I'm gonna tackle that.
I was just about to say Demi. I'm like thinking like, ooh, like maybe like a pop song. She's like Celine Dion. Like what's that? I'm like, Demi, you just go right for the most iconic singer, hardest song to sing, like classic. Okay, so someone had a little confidence back then. There you go. I love that.
Yeah. And my mom, like, also, I was raised with like Aretha Franklin and vocalists like that. And then when I started learning vocalists that were in the era of when I was growing up, it was Christina Aguilera and Kelly Clarkson, and those were the singers that I gravitated to because they did things with their voices that I couldn't, and I wanted to learn how. So I made it my mission and was like, whoever is really, really talented, I want to do what they do. And so I just sang and sang and sang my little heart out until I could hit the same notes as them.
And then you eventually absolutely got there.
Thanks.
So For someone watching this, kind of going back to your childhood a little bit,
Yeah.
to kind of paint the picture, you're growing up and your parents split when you were really young. Did your biological dad have any input when you began working as a kid?
No. So my biological dad, he was mentally ill and had a lot of addiction problems. And so he wasn't really in my life at all. I mean, I was the one that would reach out and call him, but like he was really sick mentally. And so over the years, I slowly stopped reaching out and calling him because he was so sick. It was hard to have conversations with him. He was schizophrenic and he had delusions. And so our conversations went from, how are you? I miss you, to I'm doing a movie with Steven Spielberg and Jodie Foster's my girlfriend. And I'm like, okay, we like can't talk anymore. And so I guarded myself from that relationship, and he didn't have a say, but he was proud. He was really proud. When I would talk to him, he was really proud.
And there was a lot to be proud for. Technically, your start in the business was you started in pageants, right?
Yes, I started in beauty pageants when I was 7. And my first like big win was Mini Miss Texas. Yeah, that was my introduction. And then from there, I got an acting coach and I started doing acting.
In your documentary, Simply Complicated, your mom, who was a former Dallas Cowboys cheerleader, she acknowledges her emphasis on being skinny and being perfect affected you.
Yeah.
How did your mom's opinion about herself affect your opinion about yourself?
Well, look, my mom had an eating disorder. And so naturally, someone that's in their eating disorder who isn't aware of it can pass on things to their child. And so I put a lot of pressure on myself and in the beauty pageants to look a certain way. I mean, I'm going to go on the record here and say like beauty pageants are awful for children's self-esteem, and like they teach you to ignore your emotions until you go to your hotel room, and that's when you can cry it out. And it was this toxic environment of like who's more beautiful and things like that, and at such a young age it confuses you. And so over the years I developed my own eating disorder, and that bled into my career as well.
When you're performing, you have to be okay. You got to go up there, you got to put a smile on your face, got to make everyone else feel great. But that's not how you felt on the inside. What do you remember depression feeling like as a 7-year-old?
As a 7-year-old, when my depression started to kick in, it was more of like this fascination of death. And for some reason, I had this like understanding that life was only going to get more difficult. And so I had suicidal ideations from age of 7. So much so that like my school called my parents, and they had me sign like this contract saying that I wouldn't do anything to myself. And so I entered therapy and guidance counseling at the school at 7 years old. And you know, it's something that I still deal with occasionally, and I just think it's a part of, it's just something that I've learned to accept and manage.
Yeah. When your parents got that call and you got into therapy, was there like regular check-ins? And because you were working also at the time at a young age, like was there a regimen of like checking in on Demi and making sure she was okay?
I was so young that I don't really remember. And I remember the person that actually saw the contract was my great grandmother, because I went to her house afterwards, and she was like, well, please don't do that. Like, are you okay? And so, yeah, there was probably check-ins, but I don't really remember them because I was so young.
What was your peer dynamic when you were in school?
My peer dynamic when I was in school was difficult. You know, I was thrown from being on Barney, where I homeschooled for like a year. Then I went back to school, and I'd actually learned more when I was homeschooling, to where like when I went back to school, I was like helping her show the class, like, this is what I've learned and blah, 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 blah. But when I went back to school, you know, there was a lot of drama. There was a lot of, it was the 6th grade, 7th grade drama that's the worst. It's the absolute worst with preteen girls. They're just mean.
That age is when, like, I personally know, like, bullying started for me. Like, that is the worst fucking age. That's when it all goes down. What were you bullied for?
So there was this whole incident where the main week that I was bullied, I had actually gotten the opportunity. I was already performing at, like, you know, USO bases and like little car dealerships here and there that would have like festivals and whatever. I had the opportunity to open for JoJo, the singer. And this was when Get Out Leave was like on top of the charts. And as a preteen, we're all like, go JoJo, because she's our age, right?
Absolutely.
So anyways, I had the opportunity to open for her, and I invited one of the girls that was in my clique of friends, and I got the opportunity to go backstage and meet her after I opened for her, and the other girl didn't. And I used her camera. It was like this disposable camera. And when I got back to school, she gave me all the pictures from the show, but the one of me and JoJo was missing. And I was like, where did that one go? And she was like, oh, it just didn't develop. And I was like, bitch, like, I know that it developed and you're just salty about it. Right. So that week turned into like hell for me. And all of a sudden there was drama around that, the picture not showing up, but then people took sides. And I remember it was like Mean Girls, like walking into the cafeteria where like the popular girls hated me. Anybody that wanted to be popular hated me. The popular guys hated me, and they have all the power in school. And at one point I was like hiding in a bathroom, and I called my mom and I was like, I need to get out of here. They signed a suicide petition. They passed it around and got people to sign it saying, if you, we want Demi to kill herself. And it was awful. And so, and they said some other mean stuff in there that like was just really hurtful. And so I ended up leaving and homeschooling, and it was a blessing in disguise because it gave me motivation to keep going. And it also gave me all this free time after I did my schoolwork to practice music for 3-4 hours a day. And I did that for years.
You were kind of getting bullied, I think, because you were having success, right? Like you were kind of starting to make it. People were jealous. At that age, they're super insecure. We all know how that goes. But do you think you then leaned into your craft because it was kind of like your escape from what you'd been going through?
I leaned into my craft, but I also leaned into my eating disorder, because the reasons that they gave me for bullying were they were like, you're a slut, you're a whore. Meanwhile, I'm 12 and I've only had my first kiss. And they were like, and you're fat. And they started calling the house saying they were from Jenny Craig and they wanted Demi. And so I was like, well, I guess that's their reason for me being hated so much. I guess it's because I'm fat. And I developed an eating disorder at 12. And it was really hard. But yes, at the same time, I used it as motivation. Like, I'm going to make my name so in your face that you can never escape me again. And it felt really good when that finally came true.
So you make it to Disney Channel.
Yes.
Which I was saying is basically winning an Oscar as a child. Like at
Totally.
that age, are you kidding? Let's watch a Disney Channel movie. I'm like, okay, like can you tell I've literally watched all of it?
I did too. I did too.
Everything. To paint the picture, like who was also acting on Disney around that same time as you?
It was the golden era of Disney. I mean, there was one golden era where it was like Raven and Hilary Duff, and then it like moved into this other golden era where it was like Hannah Montana had just started like a year or so before. High School Musical had just happened. Selena was on Wizards. And I auditioned for the Jonas Brothers TV show. And I was up for the role of their like female best friend or whatever. And I remember I didn't get it and I was crushed. I was heartbroken. But Disney was like, but we want to see you for these other 2 projects. And I was like, okay. Like I had taken the hardest no in my life. And I was just like, I don't know if I want to go audition again, but I will. Mm-hmm. So I did. I went and auditioned, and I ended up booking them both. One was Sunny with a Chance and one was Camp Rock. So like that for me was like, I get my own movie and my own TV show. Are you kidding? Like on Disney Channel. And I knew my life was about to change.
Was there competition amongst the big actors on Disney?
Even though I'm a competitive person, I really like quieted that voice because I was like, it's not worth it. We all have our own talents. And that's why I'm not jealous of any artist today, is because like we all have our own lanes and someone has to fill my lane, you know?
As like a young girl watching those shows, I was always like, Demi seems like she would, like, I could be friends with her. Look
Oh,
at me,
thank you.
like, eating my hair in my room, being like, I could be friends with Demi.
Eating my hair, literally. The most perfect hair, by the way. We've already had this conversation.
But it is funny because you really gave that vibe of like relatable and like someone that you could be friends with.
It was the bangs. The Camp Rock bangs. It was the bangs.
It was the bangs, and you brought the bangs back today. Okay. What pieces of your personal life did Disney have a say on once you started working with them?
Whew. So there were expectations on you to be a role model because all of a sudden you're thrust into that position, whether you want to be or not. Like you're on shows that kids are watching. You can't be seen at a party with a red cup in your hand because it looks like it could be alcohol. And people online, like there was this website called Ocean Up, and Ocean Up would just like take all scandalous things that were happening to Disney actors and put it on there. And so we lived in fear of that website. It wasn't really ever Disney saying, you can't do this, you can't do that. But if something happened, there would be conversations. And I will say that like that pressure of you're replaceable was always there, not necessarily ever said by Disney, but they didn't have to, because it was like Disney is the hottest thing for teenagers to be on. And there are millions of kids that want to be in your place. And so you have to be on your best behavior, or else, you know, there's the next girl in line that could book the movie that you're supposed to be in. What people don't know is that the amount of work we had to do. Every year I filmed a season of a TV show, I went on tour, I made an album, and I shot a movie. And I did that for like 3 or 4 years. I think it was 3. But if I had a hiatus from my show, I would have the tour bus pull up to the studio and take me on tour for 1 week. Or I would fly to London to do promo. And I remember one day I woke up, I was so tired and like just drained from how much work I was doing as a 16-year-old. I woke up and I just started crying, and my mom was like, what's wrong? And I was like, I'm so tired. And then she started crying too. She was like, me too. And it was like this sad kind of hilarious moment. And we were like, okay, put ourselves together. We got to do this. And so there was this extreme workload that I think put a lot of pressure on us. And that's why some of us I personally turned to, if you're going to work me like an adult, I'm going to party like an adult. And that at 16, 17 wasn't healthy at all.
When you had that moment with your mom, do you wonder if she ever thought to be like, hey, like you don't have to, you know?
I think my parents were also under the, impression that someone will take your place if you don't commit to this stuff. And so I'd sit down with my management and my dad, and we'd go over the schedule. And the thing was, I was also bipolar. And I was unmedicated. So there would be times where I'd have this like all this energy, and I'd look at my schedule and be like, I can do that. Plus this is the cover of Cosmo. Like I want to do that. It's cover of 17. Like I want to do that. I didn't want to miss anything. I had like major FOMO if I did. So I just kept on pushing. But then by the time it would get there, I'd fall into like a depression and it'd be really hard to work.
At that age, technically at 16, you are the thing that's making all the money for all the people around you. And if you stop, it all ends.
And also at a certain point, I was paying for the roof over my whole family's head. And my dad had quit his job to become my manager. So it was his income was coming from me. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, wasn't reliant on, kind of was, but it was just that pressure of like, I'm paying for everything and like I need to keep going because if things start start to disappear, so does the finances.
So you reference, if I'm going to be treated like an adult, I'm going to party like an adult.
Yes.
At what point in your Disney career did you begin experimenting with drugs?
So I started experimenting for the first time when I was 12. 13, I got into a car accident and they prescribed me opiates. And my mom didn't think that she'd have to like lock up the opiates from her 13-year-old daughter, but like I was already drinking at that point. I was, had been bullied, was looking for an escape. And when my mom saw how many of the pills had disappeared and how fast they did, she took them away, locked them up. But yeah, I drank a lot in my teenage years. And then it wasn't till I was about 17 that I started, well, that's not even true. Like there were times where I'd get certain kinds of pills throughout like 15, 16. I'd steal my mom's Xanax. She had a Xanax addiction. And like, so it was off and on. And then at 17 is when it kind of was the first time like I tried Coke and like loved it too much. And then that kind of bled into me going to treatment like right after I turned 18.
When you were drinking, were you drinking alone or were you going out places?
My first time drinking, I was alone. And that was like, should have been a major red flag. I like stole beer from my dad in the fridge, my stepdad, and like took it to my room and drank like 4 beers just to see what it was like to feel drunk. And like, I was like a little 90-pound, girl. So that was a lot. And then it started being with like friends, and it wasn't ever alone after that, but that was my first time.
Call Her Daddy is brought to you by ZipRecruiter. Did you know that 3 in 5 women feel pressured to accept the first job offer they get? Daddy Gang, as a qualified candidate, you have way more power than you think. Before you say yes, please make sure it's in line with what you want. Will there be work-life balance, career growth? Are you being paid what you're worth? You deserve an amazing job where you are valued, and that is why you need to use ZipRecruiter. If you're ready to find that next role that meets your needs, go to ZipRecruiter.com/CHD to get started. ZipRecruiter matches you with relevant jobs in minutes, and you can apply to most of them with just one click. Hate waiting. Most applications on ZipRecruiter are viewed right away within 48 hours based on their recent data. I love that the majority of jobs on ZipRecruiter include salary and benefits info. That is so important when considering what job you'll choose to take. You deserve to be in a role where you're happy, fairly paid, and genuinely excited to grow. So use ZipRecruiter and find a job that's a hell yes. Go to this exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter.com/CHD right now to start finding jobs you love. Again, that's ZipRecruiter.com/CHD. When you're kind of at this age where you start to kind of experiment, you're drinking and everything, did not only your parents, but like management and publicists and did people know you were drinking and doing drugs?
When it came to management's attention that I had been doing pills, they definitely were like, this can't happen, and like, what's going on, and do we need to get you help? And I was really good at convincing people like, no, it was just like, I had a hard time sleeping and blah, 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 or I'd make up excuses. And finally, when it got to a point where it was clear that I needed help and I needed to go away, everyone was really supportive of it because it had been like kind of a long time coming.
So thinking about the whole Disney era, there was a major wave of purity ring wearing. Okay? I can't say it with a straight face, okay? Debbie's like, holy fuck. Oh, no pun intended. No pun intended. There was a huge wave of purity ring wearing amongst Disney stars.
Oh, yeah.
What the fuck was that about?
So I think it was just my purity. I had a purity ring that came from my church, like way before Disney Channel even happened. I was like 11 or 12. And like, obviously that shouldn't have even been implemented on 11 or 12-year-olds. But I was like, okay, like I'll I'll do this, whatever. That quickly went out the window at a certain point. And then I left the others to have their purity adventures on their own. But I mean, to each their own. I don't know. It was an interesting thing to come out publicly and say.
It really was, because I remember being that age and like I should have been apparently wearing one because I was like Catholic at the time. God, I'm getting like burned. But I'm like, why are people wearing these things? And it was such an interesting, it almost at the time when I look back on it really felt like the Disney kids like were getting older, and it felt like a way to like really cement like, no, we're really good kids and we don't do anything bad. And it's like, look at my finger, like, oh, they wear a purity ring.
Right. I don't know. Like, I had one and I think I talked about it like once, but like, and it caught a little bit of fire, but definitely not as much as the other people wearing them. And I quickly hushed about that when I started having sex, because I was like,
I lost it. I don't know where it went.
It broke. I think it actually literally broke because it was so cheap. And then I was like, well, that's my sign. Here we go.
Have you ever sat down and discussed the challenges of being inside this Disney machine with people like Selena Gomez, Miley Cyrus, the Jonas Brothers?
I think over the years, like, we talked about it for sure, but I do have a project in the works where I want to talk to some of those people about their experiences and other child stars as well.
Kind of like we were talking about earlier, there were all these systems in place in your life. Everyone, they're taking care of your career with you. And then well into adulthood, your personal life was also being controlled by people that were managing your career. Mm-hmm. Demi, in what ways was your team controlling your life?
There was someone that came into the picture, and when they came into the picture, everything in my life was controlled. I started having a sober companion, which was helpful for me, but it should not have lasted 3 years. And then it became controlling around my food. And for someone in recovery from an eating disorder, that's so dangerous. It actually exasperated my eating disorder to the point where I became bulimic again. From 2016 to 2018, I was dealing with that. And we're talking like, I've never talked about this before, but there was one time where I had binged and purged one night, and I came clean to my team and said, hey, this happened. I snuck out of my hotel room because they didn't let me have phones in my hotel rooms because they didn't want me to call room service. I didn't have food in my hotel room, like snacks in the mini bar, because they didn't want me to eat the snacks. Ellen talked about this on her show where they cleared the dressing room of like all sugar before I would get in there. She was like, I remember that. And they, after I told them what had happened, my security guard walked by my room or was made aware that they like barricaded me into my hotel room. They put furniture outside of my door so that I couldn't get out and sneak out and eat if I wanted to. And so it was that level of controlling when it came to my food, which just made my eating disorder worse. One time I said, I'm throwing up blood. I need to go to treatment. I need to get help. And this was in like 2017. And this person looked at me and said, you're not sick enough. And I think that was his way of saying like, no, you're not going back to treatment because if you do, this will look bad on me. And so I didn't go back into treatment. And less than a year later, I ended up overdosing. And so I think it was just like I felt trapped. I felt like I couldn't get out of this situation. And my way of like blowing everything up was relapsing on drugs and alcohol. Because they always said if you use, we're out. And I was like, all right, time to get out. Bye. I've learned a lot from that experience. Like no one can control me anymore. And I was under the control from 18 to 25. And those are years where you're trying to figure out your adulthood. You know, you're no longer a teenager, but for some reason I had people controlling everything I ate. You know, my business decisions were always being made for me. And now I found my voice. No one can ever do that to me again. And I feel empowered by what I went through because I had to grow and I had to learn to accept that I'm my own boss.
When you, just to clarify, when you're referencing this person is basically trying to keep you from eating, it's for the image to make sure you look thin.
Yeah.
Which helps their career
Yeah.
and their income. Can you talk a little bit about mentally why it's so hard to push away from people that get their claws in you in that position?
Yeah, absolutely. I would even go so far as to say like there was a brainwashing element to it where you were totally under the impression that if I don't listen to this person who knows so much about recovery, I'm going to lose everything. And so you put all of your trust and your faith into one person. And then from that, everyone around me listens to that one person and they go with it. You know, if this person says this is what it is and this is how it should be, then we listen to them. And then it became, it got to the point where like if they didn't like a chef that I had, they would sit me down and say like, we don't like the chef that you have. We think that you should try someone else. And so I would say, okay. Like I just put all of my trust and faith into, you know, into people around me that I think didn't have my best interest at heart. The reason why they didn't like that chef that I had was because the chef told me, they said they read your bank statements to see what you order at Starbucks to make sure you're not getting like cookies or pastries or things like that. And when I found that out, I told them, and then they were like, we don't like your chef. And I was like, oh, you realize that she's the one that told me.
Hearing you talk about this, it does sound not like a version of what Britney Spears went through.
Right.
Like the controlling and the micromanaging to the point where you don't even have control over your own life.
Right.
I can't imagine how alone you felt when you said like they had said if I used then they were gone and then I used, and in a way it was almost like your cry for help of like get the fuck away from me. A lot of people don't understand this side of the world, and I think that's why I love having you on right now, because we get headlines, E-News says something about, and it's like we don't understand what you as a human being are going through, and people are so ruthless to quickly make a judgment of like, oh well, she's got all the money in the world, so her
right.
Well, and it's like, listen to what you're saying right now, like
right.
This is a nightmare,
right? And I couldn't talk about it. I felt trapped, and you know, I don't know how many people have gone through that situation, but it is really sad.
In a Bustle article, you asked the question, what do I want my relationship with my manager to look like without enmeshing my own father issues onto him? What did you mean by that? How were your father issues affecting your relationship with your manager?
I had such interesting relationships with my dads, and the abandonment issue from my birth father was so deeply rooted inside of me that when it came to management, like I placed that fatherly figure role onto him and onto this other person that I have mentioned. And so when looking for a new manager, I wanted to find someone that I don't place that fatherly figure role onto, and that it's just business.
In your documentary, Dancing with the Devil,
yes,
you reveal your virginity was taken from you.
Yeah.
You were raped.
Mm-hmm.
Is it possible to heal from an experience like that?
I think in a way time can heal wounds, maybe not all of them. The more time that has gone by, the easier it has gotten. But there's still a sadness, a deep sadness inside of me that someone took that from me at such a young age. And it was hard because this person was also around, like they were also on Disney. And so seeing them around was difficult, and it really messed up my my teenage years. And finally, I went and got help for that. And it's been something that I've worked on. But, you know, I've had other traumas happen, and it kind of pushes those to the side a little bit. But there are moments where I definitely will cry and just feel the sadness inside of me, because, you know, that's healthy to do. Rather than bottle it up, I just will allow myself to have those moments of like, that was really sad what happened to you, and you're a fighter. Like, you can get through it.
I mean, I can't imagine at that young of an age having to still have someone be on Disney and having to see someone that did that to you. I mean, you are a survivor.
Thank you. And to be clear, like, it wasn't anyone in the immediate Disney circle, you know? Like, I've had people ask, you know, questions of like, was it this person or was it that person? And it was like, I don't think it'd be anybody that anyone would guess, but they were friends with someone on set, and they'd come around and yeah.
So many people, especially young women, listen to my podcast that have been sexually assaulted. Yeah. And it's complicated if you've never been through it. How do you give someone advice on that, right? So where have you generated the strength to keep going through trauma?
I think that I've just had a lot of trauma in my life, and there's a persistence, a determination inside of me. And I think I learned that from like the bullying experience of like, you can turn this around and make it into something great. And I'm not saying that I've turned sexual assault into anything great, but you know, I've written about it in music. I've healed from it, and it's just made me stronger.
You are so fucking strong, and it is written all over your new album.
Thank you.
I was listening to it in my car. I feel like that's also the best place to listen to new music, when you're like,
it's the best.
The best.
Yeah.
The best. You're like by yourself, you're listening, and you're just like, so first of all, I just want to say I'm a huge fan of your new album.
Thank you.
Holy Fuck. Holy Fuck is the album. And also, holy fuck, it's so fucking good.
Thank you.
Demi, I need to know, how does this album reflect where you are in your life right now?
Whew, this album, it reflects this album. Like, actually, there's a journey to it. So like in the beginning of the album, you can hear my anger. You can hear, like, I left treatment in December this last year, getting help again, and I'm sober again, and I feel great. But like, there was all these emotions that I left treatment with, and I wanted to convey them in my music. And so the first few songs are like really angry, and it's like, this is who I am, take it or leave it. I know what you're saying about me online. Like, Demi leaves rehab again. Like, I see you, I hear you. And then as I started to heal, I was like, you know what, I'm actually like getting happier. And I was owning my sexuality in a lot of the songs. And then my album became like, so it was like angry, then like sex, and then like love songs.
Your songs are incredibly personal, and you always give insight into your life, and I feel like that's why your fans are obsessed with you. It's because you're like, you put it all out there, and that's why we love Demi Lovato. It's like and I appreciate that, because, you know, sometimes we don't get a lot from people, and you're like, this is me. This is me. This is me. But oh my God, everyone's like, stop, Alex. But I appreciate that. And in the tone of one of the songs, like, you are fucking fighting, and you're like, I have something to say, and I'm going to address it as I always address my journey.
Yes.
And I always talk about what the fuck I'm going through. And so why would this be any fucking different on this album? The song 29.
Yes.
What inspired you to write this song?
I went to treatment after turning 29. I did a lot of work on myself. And I had this realization when I turned 29 that I came out of treatment with anger. I came out of treatment with understanding and growth. And so it was like a reflective song for me. And even though there's undertones of anger, it was like I really learned a lot about that experience, and I decided to write about it.
To anyone that hasn't listened to the song, you need to go listen to it. Just a couple of the lines to give them a Too young to drink wine, just 5 years a bleeder, student and a teacher, far from innocent. What the fuck is consent? Numbers told you not to, but that didn't stop you. Now I'm finally 29. Funny, just like you were at the time. What do you hope people take away from these lyrics?
If you're a young girl and you think that it's sexy or fun to date older men, it's not okay unless you're of age. It's portrayed as like, oh, you scored someone older, that's cool. And it's like, actually, that's weird. So it's just like a reflective moment of like, if you are in that situation, just listen to this song and like kind of think about it.
How did you decide to release it as a single?
Well, it was hard. It was really hard for me to release this as a single because it's so emotional for me and so personal. But I think sometimes the public needs the truth. And that's why I decided to release it as a single, because I think the message is so important.
Call Her Daddy is brought to you by Hidden Valley Ranch. Hidden Valley Ranch now comes in a new easy squeeze bottle. The same ranch you love, just in a new, easier to use bottle. New bottle, same great flavor. Hidden Valley Ranch is the original ranch, the brand that created ranch in 1954. Recently, Hidden Valley Ranch changed its packaging, moving from the iconic paddle bottle to a new easy squeeze bottle. Okay, the new bottle offers a lot of benefits, including making it easier to just get the right amount of ranch out without making a mess and helping you get out every drop. Hidden Valley Ranch is America's #1 ranch. Visit walmart.com/Hidden Valley to find Hidden Valley Ranch in the easy squeeze bottle. Hidden Valley Ranch, only serious about flavor. I love you, Hidden Valley Ranch. Thank you for that. What is your favorite song on the album to have sex to?
First of all,
saying favorite.
First of all, I don't have sex to my own music.
Oh, Demi, come on. I'll have sex to your music.
Go for it. Go for it. I would feel weird about it.
If you had to.
If I had to.
Or to people listening, which song should they fuck to?
Well, it depends. If you're trying to be like
sensual,
yeah. Listen to Come Together. Mm-hmm. If you're trying to like
bang it out.
You know what? If you're trying to bang it out, listen to Bones. Bones is like, it's like, I want to jump your bones. That's the hook.
We are not in Disneyland anymore, guys.
No,
Disney Channel is dead.
Yes.
Demi fucking Lovato, you are fucking back with a vengeance. I'm obsessed. Speaking of sex, Demi, you gotta give us a little tea. Are you dating anyone?
I'm dating somebody.
Look at that grin. Okay, we don't need like too many deets, but like, how's it going? Like, what's the vibe?
It's going really well.
It's going well.
Yeah. Can I say that?
It's your life,
okay. It's my life. It's
no
my
more
life.
looking at your team.
Yeah.
It's your fucking life.
It's my life. Yeah. It's going really well. Yeah.
Okay, when you're dating someone, what is the most important thing you look for in a partner?
I have to laugh. Like I've dated people that were beautiful or, sexy. And it's like, I still am like that. The person I'm dating is so hot and so sexy and I am obsessed. But like, the most important thing is like, eventually over time, we grow old and looks fade and things like that. Like you have to find someone that completely understands you, but most importantly to me, makes me laugh.
I'm like so happy for you because I can tell it's like fresh and it's great because you are fully blushing. You're like, stop! No! Demi, knew you. We don't fucking ask for permission. What do you want to say?
That's
what do you
true.
want to say?
That's
we're not saying names here unless you want to say his name. Okay, you're going to go on tour, right?
Yes. So excited.
Is it hard to date while you're on tour?
I found that it's actually kind of easy if you make sure that you see each other like once every 2-3 weeks.
Okay, fun.
It's important to and it's also FaceTime. Like FaceTime is really helpful. And I'm sure like it's like, I think what's going to suck is being away from the person that you're dating. But like, ultimately it kind of builds anticipation too for when you do see them, and it's like so exciting,
so exciting. And I think it's also the test of like, if you can make it through that,
yes,
like That's a great strength building core exercise. What the fuck am I saying? Okay, when you go on tour, what are you looking like most forward to when you're going on this upcoming tour?
Rocking out, because I did, the pop music and kind of R&B pop, which was fun, but also at the same time I felt like it wasn't me. Like I was trying too hard to be sexy, and I was in the little leotards and the stiletto heels, and I wasn't comfortable. And so I want to be comfortable on the stage, and I will be, and I can just completely be myself, which is going to be so exciting.
Will we be seeing like a little old Demi music vibe also on tour?
Old music, yes. You will definitely be, because it matches the sound. And I've also, which is the most exciting, I've also turned like my hits into the style of music that I'm doing today. So like, Cool for the Summer sounds totally different. Heart Attack sounds totally different. Confident sounds totally different. And it's like, it's so exciting. Sorry, Not Sorry. Like all of those songs sound totally different. And I'm like so excited for everyone to hear it. I started out with really great instincts on how to be myself. And I strayed away from it because I wanted hits. I wanted what people wanted to hear. And so I lost myself for a long period of time when it came to me musically. And I've never had an experience in the studio like I've had making this album, where it's just so fulfilling, so myself. And it's just so fun to sing, and I can't wait to perform it.
Demi Lovato, thank you so much for coming on Call Her Daddy. It was
Thank
an honor.
you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.